Good morning, everyone. This is Windy Wanders the City. This morning, I'm just having a coffee, walking around. We're on Milwaukee Avenue, just south of North. It's in the morning, so a lot of these places won't be open, but there's some really cool places here. So this Lone Owl is the quintessential English pub. Beautiful TARDIS out in front. They've got a great beer selection, but they do have English food as their bar food. So if you're not a fan of the English pub, good morning, Nancy. Nancy, can you do me a favor? Can you email me on the other channel's main email? I would really appreciate that. So this section of Milwaukee, a lot of retail, a lot of resale, and a lot of one-off brand stores. So right now we're going past an Adidas store, and then the Champion store is right here. So you've got the two sporting goods right away. And then I think it's on this corner that there's a kind of a pop-up shop. Whenever you come here, there's always there's a security guard outside, and they limit the people going in. And again, it's urban wear, and I'm sorry, I wear a t-shirt and jeans 95% of the time, so it doesn't really make sense to me. But it's really kind of bizarre what goes on in there. And then paralleling Milwaukee is the L track there. Here we see Cava. Cava is sort of a Mediterranean version of Chipotle, where you kind of get in line and you pick your protein, you pick your base, you pick your veggies. But it's just got the Mediterranean theme to it. Round two, again, another retail shop. Sweet Green, a health food store. Go in there, salads, juices, things of that nature. I'm not sure they have any animal protein in there. In the next block, so after we get past Division, then we start seeing some secondhand vinyl shops. This is a great coffee shop. And with the Wormhole, it's a great coffee shop, but during COVID, I would just come here and do all of my work from home in there. It's cozy, it's comfortable. There's a little couch area in the back. There's bars along all the sides. And by the bar, let's see here, you can sit up on a rail with a bar stool through that process. We've got our own little Fredericks of Hollywood here. I don't know exactly what the name of the store is. I don't go in there. We do have the new Taco Bell Cantina. And this is Taco Bell, but you get beer. So slightly different than the traditional Taco Bells that are out there. We've got a Devil Dog. This is the same brand that is down in Printers Row. So there's a Devil Dog down there as well. And then we've got the ramen spot. Keeping in mind, right, that we always have, the Chicago has just some astounding murals and graffiti out here. So we've got the ramen spot, and then followed by Soul Taco. It's very eclectic, right? You've got all kinds of ethnicities of food in this area. I wouldn't say that this neighborhood has an ethnic profile. Oh, am I back yet? Let me, I'm gonna go mute. I will say that I got connected to a Wi-Fi in the middle there. Hopefully it's released me and I'm back. Okay. And that might be the just that I don't have great signal here. Again, we're seeing more. This particular style I know has a name. I just don't know what the name is. But you'll see this an awful lot. The kind of the droopy eyes on there. Canella's, if you're ever in Chicago, it's a place I'd recommend. It's got it's cool. It's got everything from poached eggs down to hash browns and scrambled eggs. So you can get your eggs Benedict, and you can get a great skillet there as well. Got Floyd's Barbershop. There's a Floyd's Barbershop in... morning, Sally. How are you? There's a Floyd's Barbershop in Printers Row as well. You know, I'm going to walk through this next alley just to show you a little bit of more of the murals. We do have another sushi spot here. As we go down, just several retail places. The Walgreens is kind of new, but I've always loved this black and white picture here, right? I am a man. Chicago has a long history with both racism, separatism. I just love the strength of that photo. And then as we walk down the alley, something interesting is going here. So we're following the blue line, and the blue line is ramping down because it's above the ground right now, and it's about to go underground. But here is the mural work that is on that high rise. They raised the ground or the earthworks in order to let the train come through here. And then we get some some less than beautiful area here as we walk to the next block. And then we'll pop back out onto Michigan Avenue, or onto Milwaukee Avenue. Milwaukee is a diagonal. Most of Chicago is built on a grid, so it's very funny. You know, having grown up here, people will say, "I live at such and such an address," and then they'll give you directions, and it's like, I know how Cartesian planes work. I know exactly where you live based upon the blocks. So. We'll actually see quite a bit of artwork here. It's not quite as prominent as neighborhoods like Pilsen, or there's an east-west railroad track that goes through Pilsen, and that's miles long of artwork. If you remember on the last section of the 606, there were spots where we saw that. Here, let's give somebody some love here. Mon Scribbles is the artist here. And this is Antique Taco. And I've always liked these places where you order food through a hole in the wall. Now you can go in and get dining as well, but it's really that the neat thing about this is a hole in the wall diner, right? And then they have their dining room here. Another breakfast spot right across the street here called Cracked. The egg came first. If you ever want to get my attention, buy me breakfast. And I don't mean that in the romantic way. I love eggs. I will eat breakfast 3 meals a day. As we keep coming down, there's a Pilates over here to my side. Mild Blend, which I think this is secondhand as well. The Den Theater. This is mostly a stand-up nightclub. So I do recognize a lot of the names on there. You've got Dave Attell up there, Sam Morrell, Hari Kondabolu, Laurie Kilmartin. I just know a lot of those, or recognize a lot of those names. And here we have the Standard Bar and Grill. Oh. The only reason, and, I know that we all hate vertical. It looks better horizontal. Um, just trying to get a little bit more love onto this channel. Milwaukee is heavily retail for almost its entire length. Um, those diagonal streets are historically Indian trails and Native American trails. That the indigenous peoples here, right? This is the way that they knew how to best travel to other neighboring communities. So Chicago, which is what the Native American name would have been, and it's hard to tell whether or not it's stinky place or smelly place. This one's interesting. So it's kind of a bar, but it's also a putt-putt golf place. So, yeah. When I was a young lad, this would have been excellent first date material. Right? The idea that there's an activity there that you kind of have to pay attention to. You'll notice that, right, we're now looking towards where the train tracks were paralleling us, but now we have no more train tracks. Go ahead. We now have no more train tracks because it's underground. You can still hear it because there's vents and escape routes from the subway in case there was an emergency, and the vents are so that bad gases wouldn't get trapped downstairs. That we can see that, oh, there's some chains here. This is by no means a dangerous neighborhood. Now, I will tell you that no matter where you're at, keep your head on a swivel, pay attention to your surroundings. Situational awareness will always be helpful to you. But it's really just that how to keep away the vandalism. We're going to come up on another store where there's artwork as they're advertising. I don't think, this used to be a candy store, and I don't think that it's still in operation. And then we're coming past, again, a Korean barbecue. This one has a little outdoor park right next to it. And again, we're going to see some artwork. Yeah, we're pretty early in the morning. And most of the people up here would have been, these stores aren't early morning stores. Even the breakfast places are more weekend places. They'll do brunch, but they are, and again, what time is it here? 8:40, 9 o'clock. As we're traveling southeast, right, we're coming up to Ashland. Ashland is a pretty major thoroughfare as well. As you go south and cross the highway, you'll end up in the medical district, basically. And we're coming to the next major stop of the Blue Line. But this stop of the Blue Line is downstairs. So all of the Blue, not all, most of the Blue Line stops further out from the city center are above ground. But here we're starting to see underground. We'll do a whole video on Division Street, which Division Street has like 5 blocks of just amazing nightlife. And I'm not saying disco-ish nightlife. It's restaurants. So here you can see that you would go downstairs, and about a half block south is Division Street. A lot of restaurants, and most of those restaurants have sidewalk permits. Here we're looking north on Ashland. You've got the Tree Line Center there. Sorry you hear me sipping my coffee. Yes, the Blue Line So the way the CTA works, Chicago Transit Authority, and by the way, there's a band as well. The CTA is the intra-city. Sorry, inside the city. So the buses and the L are the CTA. And they are colored lines. That's how they're named. The blue line goes from O'Hare, and then it comes into the city center and goes out west to Forest Park. The red line is really just a north-south vertical, and it goes from Evanston on the north side all the way down to 95th Street on the south side. You've got the orange line, which goes from Midway and then comes into the loop. When you hear the loop, it's because there's a loop of railroad tracks around the city center. And the orange comes up and does kind of a lollipop. So it goes out to Midway Airport, the smaller of the two airports. If you fly Southwest, you're probably going to Midway. And then it comes up and does the lollipop around the loop. Then you've got the brown line, and the brown line goes kind of northwest, a little bit further north than the blue line, and goes down to the loop and does a lollipop. The pink line does a lollipop and then goes southwest, a little bit north of the orange line. And then there's the green line, which goes very far south, but closer to the lake than the red line does. When I say inner city, I guess what I mean is the central business district. Again, we're about to see another mural, right? The name of this guy is rather funny. So his signature is Jerkface. The river kind of has an effect in this area. One of the reasons that this street is diagonal is because the river is following us about 2 blocks behind us over this direction. So the North Branch to Chicago River is over this direction, and we're basically in the Goose Island area. Goose Island did not start as the beer company, but the beer company did take its name from that. Right now, M&M Mars, and it might be Wrigley Mars. I know they recently purchased Wrigley. They have a lot of buildings over there in that space. Yes. I like when people just pick names like that. I'm going to walk over to the bike lane real quick. We're about to go through a little bit of construction. Now here, the retail has kind of been decimated in this area. Going past another sushi and Thai spot. There is a pneumatic. There's a jackhammer to my side. There's an awful lot of like earthworks there, so they're tearing up the street, and then there's a vacant lot that looks like it's getting its ground compacted because they're probably going to do a dig there soon and put a foundation in for another building. I am a big fan of sushi as well. Growing up, I thought it was the food that you use to catch other food, but now I'm okay going straight to the source. You can see that I've got the bike path. There's a bike path here on Milwaukee. Milwaukee has a bike path for almost its entire length, and these are mostly people that are probably heading to work. We're heading towards the city center right now, or the business district. And by the way, it's unfair to say business district, but in reality, all of the areas of the city are a business. It's the skyrise. You know, the skyscrapers are what I'm talking about downtown. This Frontier is really cool. It's got all the meats you could ever want, and they've got a beautiful little sidewalk cafe, or not, I guess, beer garden or little area here for sitting. I've lived in many of the places here, so and yeah, I'm less comfortable just because of fun with the other channel in disclosing that. A lot of my friends, so every once in a while on this channel, and you've actually seen them on the other channel as well. I've got a friend who's just always worked in the service industry, and I love the cool places that they go. So she's always introduced me to some of the neatest places. Like I love going to, yeah, I don't mean this is directly to her statement, a blue collar locals dive bar where you can only pay cash, right? That I love having conversations with those people. I love the stories. So we're now going past Noble Square. There's a school here, so there's a one-way coming at us here. Got a school, got a beautiful church back there. Then our next intersection will be at 1000 North, and that's Augusta. I run this area a lot too. I run the streets of Chicago in the morning because it's really not that busy on the non-busy streets. So Milwaukee is not a street I run on very often, but I do run on some of these east-west streets that intersect it. Absolutely, Sally. It is the where everybody knows your name. And again, every once in a while, I want to walk into the tourist bar. But I really enjoy when I go into a place and people know who I am. Now, on this next section, we're going to go over. So as we cross Augusta, we are also going to then go over the north-south part of the Edens Expressway, or the Kennedy Expressway. This Kennedy, about 3 miles north of here, it'll split and become the Edens, but you can either go to O'Hare or you can go to the northern suburbs. And here we have the Polish Roman Catholic Union of America. I never really see any activity here. We're about to go over the highway. Now you're starting to see, right, we've got the Sears Tower down there, Trump Tower. Over here, you can see the antennas from John Hancock just over that brick building. I'm going to walk across here before the fence gets in our way. Right, so you've got the highway heading into the city. Yeah, Nancy, it's really amazing. I just love seeing the skyline. You know, and I'm sure that everybody loves their own town skyline. I love New York skyline. Nashville has a skyline that I recognize. I'm sure you won't see it, and it's a little bit hazy today. It's going to be hot here today. I think we've got a high of 90. Um, you've got the John Hancock, which is the tapering tower, but then just to its left is Bloomingdale's, and the back half of Bloomingdale's is the Bloomingdale store all the way up, but the front half of that building is all boutique stores, and it's a mall. It's basically an indoor mall. But it's really cool to see like the four posts. It's a very recognizable building. As you come into the city, one of the biggest exits is just south of here, which is the Ohio Street exit. And it's a cloverleafish type exit. Most of the other exits that are in the city center are just going to be go up the ramp, stop at the stop sign, and you'll have to take a right or a left. But this one is a merge flow or a controlled speed exit. As you can see, there's going to be some construction I got to avoid here. I'm going to walk over to that white space behind this bicycle, kind of get out of their way, but give myself some space. As soon as I get back over in front of this truck, I want to show you something on the building across the street, which was, it's very common. It's less common in Chicago now, but it used to be extremely common. So this building right here, right, it's a residential building now. It used to not, it would have been a factory at some point in time. But you can see at the corner, there's that superstructure on top. That would have held a water tower. And the vast majority of large buildings kind of controlled their own water. They would pump water up there or capture water from the rain, and then that would be able to create the water pressure for the building. You see that a lot in the Fulton Market District. There's still a lot of water towers. And it would have been something common for, 3 to 6 story buildings. It's not something you're going to see on top of a skyscraper. Again, these businesses are less business consumer. There'll be a few business to businesses. Almost every retail spot is going to be retail on the ground floor and then residential above it. Underneath me, so these vents right here, these are those vents that I was talking about, and you can hear the train rolling underneath me. So the blue line just went underneath me. I'll say this channel is mostly because I saw Dan Walks LA, and I really liked the idea that he was showing off his city. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to show off my city. And there are others that do this in Chicago. Here's just an interesting element. So it's called Cherry Mountain Arts. At this next intersection, if we look east, we might be able to see the bridge that goes over the river. That'll give you the indication of how close to the river we are. Now we're at Chicago Street. Chicago is the next stop on the Blue Line. So now we've walked from basically North Avenue to Chicago, passing the North Avenue station, the Division Street station, and now the Chicago station. Chicago's an east-west, right? We're traveling southeast into the city. Another pizza place. Not that I encourage swinging dead cats, but you couldn't swing a dead cat and not hit a pizza place in this town. This one I like. I don't know if you can see it, but it's called the Windy City Cafe. That is not my cafe, but it's there. Big Shoulders Coffee. So if you want to go local instead of Starbucks, there's a great opportunity. The bike lanes are common in the city, but they are on certain streets. So it's not every street. The diagonals do it quite a bit, only because, again, they're lengthy thoroughfares and common ways that people are getting up and down the street. Let's quickly look down. So now we're looking down Ogden. Ogden is now the first diagonal street that's going to go southwest. The two major ones are Ogden and darn it, it starts with an A. That are going to go southwest through the city, or from the city. This, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a train back there, and they turned the train into a restaurant. I'll walk down the street there real quick. So the front here, we've got a brick and mortar train spot or restaurant, and then as we travel backwards or to the back of it, you'll see that they've got the Silver Palm train, and they've turned it into basically a dining car, but it's a dining car that doesn't move anymore. So the city made a really bad deal with its parking agreements a few years back. It was highly publicized. They sold all of the parking for a big lump sum, but they underestimated that lump sum because the company that bought it has already recouped their money, and they've still got, it was a 75-year contract. What's even more interesting or troublesome about that contract is that part of the contract says the city cannot remove any parking spaces. So that's one of the reasons that it's hard to get more bike lanes, because in order to create the bike lanes, sometimes we have to remove parking. You can see here not as much, because the way that they do it is you've got the sidewalk, the bike lane, and then a parking lane. But in many places, the street just isn't wide enough to do that. So you can't convert it to a bike lane because you'd be violating the contract with the parking. Now we're coming into so different areas of the city, they have different street naming conventions. In the city center, the east-west streets are presidents' names. In the North Loop, which we're not in the North Loop, but the streets come all the way out here from the North Loop, we're going to start seeing the Great Lakes names. So it's Erie, Superior, Huron, in this area. And then, as I said earlier, there was that Ohio Street exit. Just ahead of us, there's a little hill that's going to take us over that on-ramp. This is just a neat old sign. I love that it's got the neon, and as we get closer to it, I'm sure you'll be able to read it, but our family serving yours since 1934. State-of-the-art repairs. Going to come past another sidewalk garden for a restaurant. I'll say the reason that the other channel exists is I can no longer accept the things I cannot change. I change the things I cannot accept. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? By the great John Lewis. I'm not sure if you see back there, but there's a beautiful little flower mural on the wall. Beautiful little garden space. Here, just a view of the traditional, right? These people would have built the house. The store owner would have started their shop and they would have built the house above it. They probably would have lived in one unit and would have then rented other units. But these are very traditional. A lot of the buildings here in Chicago are 3 stories high. There actually happens to be a reason for that at certain points in its history, it was how high could a fire truck get? That was kind of how the building permits were created. Now the high rises, they have internal fire suppression, but these other buildings here, right, where it would be an external. Howdy, Joe Cool. We're heading down Milwaukee, just about to go over the Ohio ramp. Been watching a lot of, or we've been seeing a lot of the retail businesses down here. It's a great time of the year to be here. I mean, how green it is. Boy, in the winter, this is a tough spot. Those flags are very recognizable, right? They kind of tell you where you're at. So if you're kind of ever wondering where you're at over in the West Loop, I kind of look for those signs to see how far away from Ohio Street I am. Joe, hopefully you were hard at work watching over the cops these last few days.
Life was great when I was drunk on.
There's a building up here on the left that I used to be a tenant of, and I loved it because I had this big patio above the retail space, and between the 2 towers is just this massive patio, and certain apartments had access to it. So it was just the best for having dinner parties and such. Howdy, Fuzzy. So, right, this is the Ohio Street exit. You can see trying to get off north is not fun right now. We'll get again a panorama of the high rises. You've got Bloomingdale's, John Hancock, newer building being built here. You've got Trump behind us here. It's amazing how many tall buildings are being built here now. And there was the thought after the financial meltdown in 2008 that the city would die and there would be no residential. The vast majority of these new buildings are residential buildings. They're being built for the purpose of being residential buildings. Historically, these were all office buildings that were turned into residential buildings. About 2 blocks ahead of us is where the Metro leaves the city, and it's another one of those spots that's just prime mural real estate. Just moments ago I was talking about the idea that you had access to this patio. If you look at this white or blonde building here, and you've got the trees that are on that second terrace, that's where my space was. So there were only 4 apartments that had access to that space, and it was divided into fourths. So it was just a great place to hang out with your friends. And now we're above the Grand Street exit. So we've gone from the Blue Line. We're coming up on Grand Street, which is again another Blue Line exit. Lo and behold, they have a Starbucks here. It is not hard to find Starbucks in this town. We're about to see Piccolo Sogno, which has some awesome murals on it. So the Dawson across here, it's a little bit bougie, but it's a neat place. As we cross the street here, again, you can see the stairwell down to the Blue Line. Oh, sorry. And I'm going to kind of walk through the Piccolo Sogno parking lot just to show you their awesome outdoor art. This one's kind of a gem as well. If you go in here, they've got a little bar space, and then they've got some restaurant space. I don't know if you'll be able to see through all their art, but you've got this little bar space up front. Maybe 20 people could sit there. This section is indoor dining. And then behind this fence, there's got to be 40 tables back here. And it's all, you can see that it's all tree covered. Just a beautiful, serene setting back in there. More mural work over here. Sorry if you guys are in the sun. And then you'll see, although it's kind of obscured by the trees here, right? You can see underneath there. And this set of tracks goes west for about 3 miles. And many sections of it are just dedicated to this mural work. So we're passing under. Sorry. You'll also get the mural. The inside of the street tunnels is another place for the mural and the artwork to be shown. This looks like the same artist on both sides. It's just got the same look. That's actually not true. It's using the same colors, but here we're seeing rounded. Here we're seeing very sharp edges. The tracks that were above us were the ones that are coming out of Ogilvie Station. And as we go over this bridge is here mostly to let the expressway. So, the city is built in layers. Sorry, that truck was pretty loud. I don't know if you guys were hearing it. The city's built in layers. So the highway that we walked over before is now going underneath us. You can see the train coming into town. Just the engine. This heightened overpass is really to give leeway so that you can have a street underneath us but still stay above the highway. And we're also above the trains that are coming out of Union Station. So that Metra engine would have been coming out of Union Station. Now we're seeing the Sears Tower very prominently. By the way, I have left Milwaukee and we are now on Halstead. You've got Carnivale. Carnivale also has some beautiful flowers and artwork on its restaurant. Not sure if you can kind of see down there, but the orange engine is moving away from us, and that the train tracks kind of snake a little bit as they go down there. But this is the regional tracks that head to Union Station. Ahead of me was a green line going west. And when I get down to Fulton Market, I think I'll go ahead and cut this live. Fulton Market is another great nightlife area, a lot of restaurants. If you're a Girl and the Goat fan, she has several restaurants in that area. There's a Kuma's Corner in there. There is in the Hoxton, there is a great Peruvian restaurant on the rooftop. The shade feels nice and cool. It's been the temperature's definitely been warm. Been in the sun a lot of this way. We'll get the Fulton Market sign, and then I'll go ahead and shut down this stream. And hopefully you'll see me on either this channel or the other channel later today. One of the bad guys. So here we have Fulton Market, and apparently there's a festival coming soon. These pink signs all say Design Days, so there must be something going on in this area. And then one block, you've got Lake Street next, and then Randolph, and Randolph is the West Loop dinner or food district. So this used to be the meatpacking district of Chicago. So 20 years ago, if you walk down the street, it would be nothing but the cast-offs of pigs and hogs being butchered and packed and sent off to restaurants and grocery stores around the United States. Nancy, we do have a lot of one-way streets. One thing that I'll say about Chicago is it's reasonable. If in one block you have a one-way east, the next block will be a one-way west. If you ever go to Boston, there are streets there where it'll be 7 one-way east in a row. And you're like, well, wait, give me a chance to go the other direction. But no, can't do it. And they do that sometimes, in the residential streets especially, because that way you can park on both sides. It gives them more space for parking, and you don't have to worry about trying to get two-way traffic down the street. All right, folks, I am going to cut us short here. Thank you all for being here. I will see you soon.